was saying to somebody the other day, there's only two artists I've ever worked with for more than one night stand, as it were. That's Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono. I think that's a pretty damn good choice.
Everyone argues about it. Paul McCartney or John Lennon? Who wrote the better Beatles songs? One was melodic, polished, and endlessly catchy. The other was raw, emotional, and brutally honest. But the real answer isn't as simple as Paul or John.
How did you and John write songs? Did you actually write songs separately or together, or was it a combination of both?
It was a combination of both. Sometimes when we first started off writing, when we were kids, we used to just sit down with two guitars like this, and strum sort of at each other and sing anything. And if an idea came out, just develop it up into a song. If he had a line that I didn't like, or I had a line he didn't like, we'd just tell each other, say, I don't like that, and we'd just do that. That was one way we used to do it. That's the kind of joint compositions way. And then sometimes, like with something like yesterday, I just had the tune and the words, and I would just have that whole song, and I'd bring it to him and kind of say, you know, how's this? And I played it to them in the studio, to the group, and they said, well, you don't need an awful lot on that. You know, I said, well, okay. Yeah. And then sometimes it'd be like Strawberry Fields, and sort of ones that were more John's, like Help would be John's idea. Hard Day's Night was his idea originally. And sometimes he'd just write them. In other words, the answer is there wasn't any formula. We did them every which way.
John and Paul didn't just write songs together, they challenged each other. Early on, they were true collaborators, finishing each other's lyrics, shaping melodies together. But as the Beatles evolved, their songwriting styles drifted apart. By the late 60s, John and Paul weren't just bandmates, they were rivals, trying to outdo each other on the same albums. So let's look at what each of them actually brought to the table. Paul's superpower was melody. He could write songs that felt timeless the moment you heard them. Yesterday, Hey Jude, Let It Be. Here, there, and everywhere. These songs don't rely on studio tricks or attitude. Strip them down to a piano or acoustic guitar, and they still work. But Paul wasn't just writing ballads. He could do rock,
like
Helter Skelter, music hall, When I'm 64, story songs, Eleanor Rigby, pure pop perfection,
like
Penny Lane. Paul thought like a composer. He cared about structure, chord changes, and making songs complete. Sometimes critics call his work safe or sentimental, but that emotional clarity is exactly why his songs have lasted. Paul wrote songs people sing forever.
Were you guys competitive, writing with each other? Did you compliment each other?
Me and John? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were competitive, yeah. Not openly, but we later admitted, yeah, you know, so Paul's written a good one there, I better get going. And I would similarly, that's a bit good, right, here we go, come on. If he'd have written Strawberry Fields, I would write Penny Lane, you know, he's remembering his old area in Liverpool, so I'll remember mine.
Mm-hmm. And when that happened, did you compliment each other?
Once.
One
John
time?
gave me a compliment.
In how many years?
Once. Lord. No, I think it's Revolver. But it was Here, There and Everywhere was one of my songs on it. And but John sort of, just when it finishes, that's a really good song, that. I love that song. And I was like, yes, he likes it. You know, I've remembered it to this day. It's pathetic, really.
Did you ever heap praise on him?
Yeah, I would tell him his stuff was great. You'd normally have to be a little bit drunk. It helped.
John, on the other hand, wrote from the gut. His songs often feel less polished, but more personal. Help, Strawberry Fields Forever, Across the Universe, In My Life. John wasn't trying to be pretty. He was trying to be honest. He brought vulnerability into pop music at a time when most artists were still hiding behind love cliches. When John sang, it felt like you were inside his head. Confused, angry, searching, he also pushed boundaries. surreal lyrics, political statements, experimental sounds. Even when his songs were messy, they felt real. And that rawness is why so many people connect to John more deeply. John wrote songs that meant something.
I always liked Walrus, Strawberry Fields, Help, In My Life. Those are some favourites, you know.
Why Help?
Because I meant it. It's real. The lyric is good now as it was then. It's no different, you know. And it makes me feel secure to know that I was that sensible or whatever, you know. That not sensible, but aware of myself. Then that's when, with no acid, no nothing, you know. That's, I mean, well, pot or whatever. That doesn't mean a thing, really. Yeah. It was just me singing Help, and I meant it, you know.
Why Strawberry Fields? Can't you that was real?
Because it's real, yeah, you know. I mean, it was real for then, and it's like talking, you know. I sometimes think no, but then again, I mean, I say, you know, like that. You see, it's like that Elton John one where he's singing. Oh, I don't know. He talks to himself, sort of singing, which I thought was nice. You know, it reminded me of that.
Sounds like Girl.
Yeah, I like that one. Girl, Run for My Life, I always hated, you know. I don't know, because it was one of them I knocked off just to write a song, you know, and it was phony. But Girl's real. There's no such thing as the girl. She was a dream, you know. But the words are all right, you know. It's about what she taught when she was young, that pain would lead to pleasure. Did you understand it? All that. The sort of philosophy quotes was reasonable. I was thinking about it, you know, when I wrote it. It wasn't just a song. And it was about, you know, that girl that happened to turn out to be Yoko in the end, but the one that a lot of us were looking for, you know. I like Across the Universe too.
Why?
Because it's one of the best lyrics I've written, you know. In fact, it could be the best, I don't know. I mean, it's one of the best. It's good poetry, you know, or whatever you call it.
What?
Without tune, it stands. Without a song, see, the ones I like are ones that stand as words, you know, without melody. They don't have to have any melody. You know? It's a poem, you know, you could read them.
Here's the thing people forget. Paul's perfectionism balanced John's chaos. John's edge kept Paul from becoming too polished. Some of the greatest Beatles songs only exist because both of them were in the same band, pushing each other. A day in the life, we can work it out. I've got a feeling. When Paul got too sweet, John cut through it. When John got too abstract, Paul grounded it. Separately, they were great. Together, they were unbeatable.
No, we just got a very informal approach. We've got no formula at all, you know, for writing songs. We just do it as it happens. Sometimes John can write a line of a song. He can come up and say... things like that. He could say that. He could just say that. He could just say that to me, and I could say, "No, John." And
often I disagree with Paul and say, "Which has been done so many times, it's killed it."
But then sometimes, you know, we have a real row, and I say, "Listen here, John. I don't think that's right." But it depends, you know. Sometimes there's a line that he does, and then I do a line. Or sometimes John can write a whole song.
Ah.
Yes, oh, he's a wonder when he gets going. Sometimes I can even do that.
You writing with John, if like, how it's a funny relationship that when you're so close. And how did you used to resolve it when, you know, I really like this line, John says this line? Would you battle for your line, or?
There was never that much battling, because if someone said, I like this better, it was generally a better idea.
Yeah.
So you'd give in to each other.
Yeah.
As long as it was a better idea. But on that case, this was personal.
Yeah.
McCartney, I wanted something like Mackenzie. So then he agreed. Okay, you know, let's go. And we went in the phone book. But there weren't many disputes, you know, because we're writing like this, with acoustic guitars, and you know, I'm coming up with a bit of a line, and then he's following it on, just ping-ponging ideas. You know, I look back on it and think, yeah, you were a good collaborator. Yeah, you know, it was good. At the time, it just felt good, and we respected each other, you know.
So who wrote the better songs? If you love melody, craftsmanship, and timeless beauty, you probably say Paul. If you love honesty, emotion, and edge, you probably say John. But the real answer? The best Beatles songs came from the tension between them. Now, I want to know, Team Paul or Team John? Let me know in the comments.